Uh, Good evening. This is the meeting of the Bolton Board of Selectmen on Thursday, March 12th, 2015. First item on our agenda is a public hearing on the application of Great Brook Farms, Inc., DBA Slater's, 356 Main Street, requesting a license category change from wine and malt to all alcoholic license. Bruce, why don't you come on down and explain what this is about?
Okay. I sent you guys a letter, I think, a couple of weeks ago, explaining that just in order to grow our business and to keep up with the the competition in the area in the future, just having the beer and wine. I mean, going from beer and wine to full liquor would be advantageous for the business, and the customers are requesting it, and it could allow me to do, once we build a pavilion outside, to be able to do more bereavement parties and corporate events and weddings and things like that. And that was always my goal from, once the zoning got changed, to, be able to host some outside events. So that's what we're trying to accomplish.
When you say when we build our pavilion outside, I mean, so you're proposing that this license is going to apply into a facility that hasn't been built yet?
Yes.
Because I'm not sure that's, the ABCC would go along with that.
I've spoke to Brad Doyle, and we had talked about the Tiki Lounge in Neshoba Valley, how they do theirs. They have the building, and then they have the area. The outdoor area, and there's two different licenses there, and that's what I'd have to do. But he said if you have it connected from the building, whether it just be an awning, not an awning, but a wooden structure connecting the building to the tent, he'd be fine with it. So he's going to have to inspect it anyway. I mean, it's going to be up to the ABCC. So if we could word it where it was contingent, where their approval.
Well, there are a couple of contingencies here. First, because the town, because of some, I guess, historical events, we need a town meeting vote to grant an all alcohol license, and then an act of the legislature under the home rule to endorse that as well. But I guess I still conceptually have this problem that I think we could approve your change within your current facility and to make this change, but I don't know that we can say, and it will expand out into the new building once it is built. I mean, you can maybe plan on that and hope for that, right. but I think we can't say that's going to necessarily happen. Okay. Because I was looking actually at your old application, and you kind of sort of floated that in your originally, and I think the ABCC cut it back and said, no, just the patio. That's right. the other space.
And then what he said the other day was just connecting it, as long as it was connected, So if we just do the basement and the 40 by 50 building and the small patio, and then maybe we could, because you can change licenses along the way. And then maybe once we get that done and it's approved by them, then we could come back. Would that be feasible?
Did you say basement?
Pardon me?
Did you say basement?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that.
Yes. We have been storing, I just bought that for you. The wine in one room, and for space reasons, we put the beer in the basement. And we can't, they need to have that, if there's beer in the basement, that area has to be in the plan. So, not that we're serving in the basement, it's just for storage. It just has to say that
there's alcohol there.
Yeah, exactly. So there's alcohol on the first floor and there's alcohol in the basement. So they just want that to be, specified.
So what Bruce just gave me, this is on the Form 43 that normally the selectman would sign if you approved it. This is what you want in that description.
Yeah.
I spoke to you about that, Larry, and I wasn't sure what we should be.
If the board feels that the patio, the outdoor patio is going to, until that's done,
Yeah, no, I think that if we ought to, the premises ought to be sort of defined, and so if we have the 40 by 50 foot framed wooden building with a small patio, 25 by 15. Is that where the fire pit is? You have a fire pit out there? Okay. 'Cause I saw you had a Yelp user who was talking about drinks by the fire pit.
Yeah.
So I hope that's on the patio.
It is, it is.
And I don't think, though, we should be talking about the tent area when there's no, as part of some potentially expanded use when it's not.
I know, it's kind of hard too to
It's not
explain.
there.
when
It's not there,
Yeah, because
yeah.
it's a season, it's gonna be a seasonal thing, you know, or a seasonal structure.
Mhm.
You know, so they said May until April until November.
And so I gather your goal is to avoid these one-day permits that you've had? Is that part of what's
Well,
going on here?
we just had a local fella deceased. I mean, if it was in July, you know, they come quick, so you can't, to get it to the board and so on and so forth, say, I got a bereavement party, I've got 150 people, and I want to do it outside, and I want to be able to serve alcohol outside. You can't. That's
Mhm.
kind of,
So in your reference to pavilion, were we talking about the tent, or are we talking about some of the structure that you're
a pavilion slash tent. And we want to start off with a tent,
in?
and then eventually build a pavilion with, similar to, I don't know if you guys have seen the, what the Stowe Recreation Center did down there by Bose. They've got that pavilion down there, it's an open-sided pavilion, it's just a roof and with a pad, and that's really kind of what we're striving for, I guess.
And the size of the premises would be variable, really, for now then, because you've got a tent that's of a certain size.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once you move on from the tent to the pavilion would presumably be a somewhat different size.
Yeah.
And the premises have to be defined as a specific size, if I'm not mistaken. So perhaps what you could do is approve the premises as defined now. And then, because he doesn't have to go back and go through the home rule process again if he changes the size of his premises. Once he has a license, he has a license.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of the town, I think, defining the premises, or accepting a new definition of the premises, and then the ABCC accepting that as well. I believe that's the way it would work.
Yeah, though you might, I know how much you like this bureaucracy, but you might need to talk to the planning board too, again, I think, if you have sort of a permanent structure there, because when you got your special permit, you were still in the garden business.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right.
and so you might want to, if that's sort of, because part of what the ABCC is always saying, it's got to, conform to zoning as well, and so that structure, so I think the structure needs to be defined and permitted under zoning, and then it could be an expansion. But wouldn't, on a regular basis though, it just seems like serving, drinks for 150 people is quite different from what your current operation is. And how would, well, I guess we don't even need to talk about that if we're not gonna make that part of any approval. Is there any public comment in support of this proposal?
I came in late, but I do like to go there. I haven't been in a while, as Bruce knows, but it's being outside is always an attraction.
Mm.
I think this is a really good idea. I appreciate hearing what you're saying about the defined premise, but I would say though, how do you handle today, Bruce, when you have a tent function right now?
Mhm.
What do you have to do for that?
Well, we used to have to go to the building inspector to get a permit. Now he said the tent size we use is pretty much the same all the time.
So when you have a function in the tent, what do you do today to be able to serve the beer and wine?
We would apply for a one-day
Which
license.
you already do.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't this full liquor license, why couldn't you define it right now within your building And then if you need to have something in the tent, do the same process that you're already doing today, but for the full liquor license instead of just the beer and wine.
Well, I don't think the board can't issue, I know that you can't do a one-day full liquor license.
Yeah, no, I think that's,
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the thing.
Yeah.
Well,
It's just beer and wine.
I think it's very notable right now, you know, like my husband, for example, I mean, I know that we're being videotaped, but, you know, he gets headaches from beer. He has trouble drinking wine at times. So when he goes out, he wants vodka, right? I think all the, you know, surrounding towns offer liquor. I mean, to me, it's a competitive advantage to have Slater's. I went there on Sunday night. It was hopping in there on Sunday night when I went to go order my pizza and my pulled pork. So I'm totally in full support of Slater's. You know, I applaud you, Bruce.
Thank you.
So.
I think right now the main debate is the tent.
Yeah,
The main debate right now
Yeah,
is
well,
the
so
tent.
actually, we ought to make sure, I mean, anyone opposed to the application? Mr. Lindsay?
I'm not opposed, but I wonder if Chief Alfano's opinion on this has been solicited and/or provided.
I've spoken with Chief Alfano relative to confirmation that there have been no issues of any type at Slater since Bruce got his beer and wine license. That there have not, the police have not had any issues there, have not had any calls there of any type as far as disturbances or anything like that goes. As far as beer and wine versus all alcohol, the chief said he had no reason to oppose it, focusing on the way the business has been run. He didn't weigh in specifically on beer and wine versus all alcohol, he just said he had no reason to oppose it.
There could be a law enforcement difference. I mean, I don't know if there would be or wouldn't be, but it seems to me it's conceivable there would be a law enforcement difference if you had a full liquor license as opposed to just beer and wine, but maybe not.
Can I say something again?
Sure, though first I wanted to note that Bruce, you pointed out in your letter that accompanied the application that your goal is not to be a bar.
Exactly.
Right,
That-
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm-
So if, as you're trying to move towards your pavilion model, I gather you're going to continue to be selling your pizza, barbecue, and just sort of offering your patrons more alcohol options.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was my point.
Any other comments?
I mean, I don't know, it's competitive out there, and for him to have a little versatility, so when there is options like this, like say a bereavement party or something, and that this is what they want, I mean, he has to be able to offer things that other competitors can offer, and if they can't, then they're not gonna go anywhere in town. Certainly there's nothing here. So, I don't know, we could just find a workable solution so that it could work.
The successor to Sylvester's has liquor, don't they?
Fortinis, yes.
Yeah.
They have an all alcohol license, and the fireplace room at the International, as of a couple of years ago, switched from the club license to an all alcohol license, so the public could go in and go there. So this would be, yeah, so we already have two.
And to me, it's really expanding our offerings in Bolton. I mean, if you look at, none of those three examples are the same. So for an economic development issue, you know, you have Slater's, which can be defined very separately from the old Sylvester's to Fortini's today to the fireplace room. I think we're really providing a nice breadth of options for our residents and surrounding towns.
Well, what input have you gotten from the ABCC concerning?
Pardon?
What input have you gotten from the ABCC concerning the tent?
Basically, it would be, they did have the final inspection as far as to do a pavilion. It's a connection from the building to the pavilion off the patio, not the patio, but the handicap ramp area.
There would need to be a contiguous
Yeah.
connection, as Bruce
Yeah.
is saying. You couldn't have the pavilion and then have it just an open area where you would be walking out to a tent, pavilion, whatever it is. It needs to be contiguous premises.
I guess
think is what they're
my
saying.
opinion would be, just to keep people from going to the car, you know what I mean? You have to control
Mhm.
the alcohol and.
And you have to have fencing to deal with the
Yes,
flow and all
exactly,
that.
exactly.
But
But
my
the-
question is because right now it's gonna be a tent and not
A
a,
full pavilion.
not a permanent structure. What are they?
Again, it's connected to the porch and it goes into the larger tent, you know, they have the smaller walkways that you can get,
Mhm.
rent, and it's connected to the main tent, and the flow of traffic can go in that way and go out that way, and there's just no, you know, they just can't walk out.
Out.
That's what I'm saying, for now, if Bruce were to get approval for, basically for the same footprint he has now,
Yeah,
and change to his all alcohol, and then as a separate thing, once he grows into it, and, you know, and he deals with his tent for now, you know, for the one-day liquor licenses, and then whenever you're ready to do the pavilion, as Larry said, or whatever permanent structure,
Mhm.
as Larry said, you may have to work through
The
some
planning
planning board
board, yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
but then once the premises are changed, that's a matter of coming back to the board and getting the premises expanded, and then going to the ABCC and having them sign off on the premises. He doesn't have to go through a whole, it's not a change.
It's a
to his
streamlined
liquor-
process.
It's a streamlined process, that's
Yeah.
right. It's
Yeah.
it's about a 2-month process as opposed to the whole
Mhm.
home rule petition that you have to go through now for the liquor license.
Yes, but in your model, this is only gonna occur when the pavilion is built. I think Bruce is interested in being able to serve alcohol in the tent.
Mhm.
Correct, but no matter, if he had a change to his liquor license or not, a one-day liquor license cannot be all alcohol.
I understand,
Yeah.
but your scenario says he doesn't get the full liquor license in the tent until there's a pavilion there. He's interested in getting full liquor in the tent, and your scenario doesn't allow for that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the ABCC allows this sort of pop-up all liquor. I mean, to say, you know, the tent's up, we're serving, oh, tent's down, we're not
No,
serving.
you can't do that. I don't
Yeah.
think. Because the tent would not be, again, part of his premises.
Yeah,
I think, it sounds to me, unless I'm wrong, until he has a permanent structure, he's looking at all alcohol for his existing premises and one-day liquor license outside, which would not include
It'd just be beer and
all
wine.
alcohol. It would be
yeah,
beer and
no,
wine.
I think that's right.
And the only other option is to have, like I said, what Neshoba Valley, the Neshoba, the ski area, it's a separate license.
Separate
They have the-
license.
They have the restaurant, full liquor, and then they have the tiki area, which is
Mhm.
full liquor, you know, so that's what they had to do. And that would be.
That's complicated.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you're
to have
double
two li-
everything.
Yeah, exactly, you know, so.
I think your hands are somewhat tied by what you,
Yeah.
Right.
for what you can approve, but there is a path to get to where I
Right.
think Bruce wants
Would
to
you
be.
be okay with that, Bruce?
I think so, I mean, have it, if we, I'm wondering if there's a way to streamline, if, just say a bereavement party does come up, that we could apply for a one-day beer and wine license under a tent outside, if there's, I'm just thinking ahead. I mean, when I do an event, like a corporate event or you know, a rehearsal dinner or something like that, we know, weeks, months.
You're
in
talking about
advance.
an unforecasted
Exactly,
event.
exactly.
Now, the Board of Selectmen are the issuing authority of all liquor licenses, so I'm not sure that there is, I mean, I can look at it, but I'm not sure that there is a process that fits that.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the authority to issue a liquor license, neither does the chief of police or the fire chief.
So just be us.
Yeah.
Well, in any event, it's gotta go to, for the liquor license, it's gotta go to town meeting in May,
Yeah.
then it's gotta go to the state.
Mhm.
So my guess is that by the time he gets it back, you're gonna be.
Yeah,
way
we
into-
lost half the summer.
Either way into the summer or we're heading into the
Yeah.
fall.
But it doesn't negate his existing beer and wine today. So even if you approve it, you still have your existing beer and wine license today. You know that's on record.
Mhm.
If he does get a full liquor license, does that negate the ability to pass on just beer and wine to the tent?
No.
No, but that's
No.
always gonna be a one-day.
Yeah.
Right, so I mean, why,
And you don't pass it on to the tent, it's an entirely,
Yeah, actually,
it's an entirely separate
I
entity.
wishes it were that easy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that that would be an interesting compromise,
Mm.
you know, to get it for your structure, and then you still have the beer and wine ability for your
The
tent.
outside, yeah.
And then as you get a more, you know, secure structure, then you go to the planning board.
Okay.
Yep, that's probably the route we're
Yeah.
going to take.
Yeah.
So we'll scratch off that pavilion and just leave the basement, the patio, and the first floor.
Yeah, and you didn't mention the
You didn't
basement
mention the
on the,
basement.
on this.
It's not on there?
Description of the premises,
Typed it. I'm sorry.
Well, we have to write this in to the
Yeah.
other, the
Yeah.
other thing
Yeah.
anyway.
Yes, I
So-
can write it in, so just. we
So
need
it's
to-
actually, it's a 40 by 50 wood frame building with, how big is the
The
basement?
basement's 40 by 50 as well.
With 40 by 50 basement, storage only?
Yes.
Mm.
Because you're not gonna have a speakeasy there.
And
Then
then,
the pavilion would come off, right? You have it
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll scratch it out.
and as we're saying though, with that building, there's one entrance in the front of the building, and without, where's your other?
The other entrance is on the, I'm sorry, the entrance and exit is on the east side with the patio.
Oh. And an entrance and exit on patio on east side. Okay, all right.
Bruce, did you want to make that revision that we talked about, the restaurant versus, or you want to leave it, both of them checked off
I
on that?
think if we could white out the restaurant part, because he just said,
So
no, he
on-
said restaurant, not general on
Right.
premise, I'm sorry, it was restaurant.
So on the application there, if you flip the page,
Which
yeah,
one?
keep going, no,
Alright.
keep going.
Page 3.
There's a letter.
Yeah, keep going. Okay, so right, no, it's not this one. Next one, maybe. Yeah, right here, on type of license, he had checked off restaurant and general on premises, both
It's-
of them.
It should be
And
restaurant only.
It should be restaurant only, is what Brad told you,
Yes.
correct?
So what do we, should we?
So I can.
You'll wipe that out?
I can
Wipe
wipe
that
that
out.
out. I just wanted the board to know about
Alright,
the
okay.
revision.
Alright.
This is real-time service.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, barring, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't do this.
No, no, sure, no, I think it's, let this go to town meeting. Now, what's, in terms of town meeting though, who's writing the article for town meeting? You're kinda hoping we're doing this, huh?
I'm trying to think of when we did it for the first zoning change, I think we did do it, so maybe with a little help or guidance.
It's already written.
It's
Yeah.
already written, oh, you've got the friendly, your tax dollars at work here.
I can be prepared.
Alright.
That's a great government.
Okay. Any other questions, I guess, from the audience?
Mhm.
So you need a motion?
We do need a motion?
Then I will make a motion that we approve the application for Great Brook Farms, they're doing business as Slater's at 356 Main Street, Bolton, and approve the request for a license category change from wine and malt to all alcoholic at the premises of 356 Main Street, Bolton, to be confined to the 40 by 50 wood frame building with a 45-50 foot basement, storage only, and an
And a small patio.
small patio, which is 25 by 15.
All right, so should we sign these now?
Yes.
Well, you got.
Oh,
yes.
second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so then I will fill that
All right,
in,
where do you want us to sign?
and then you're signing on the left here.
Okay,
And then I'll fill this description in
Okay.
there.
sounds good.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
the top one, you're right.
Just one?
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Good luck.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you
Right.
for all your help.
Yep.
Can't wait to come in the summer.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night now.
Next item on our agenda is a discussion of the acceptance of a gift of land on Burnham Road from the Polson family. Carol, why don't you let us know what's going on here?
Sure. The Paulson family contacted the Conservation Commission back in 2013, and they have a, it's a little shy of 1.5 acres of land that's bounded by 495 and municipal, not conservation land, but town-owned land, and then some private held land that's at the end of Burnham Road.
You know, we got a map, we couldn't see it, but I guess
Yeah,
that's because you had it in yellow.
Some of the maps are harder than others.
So-
And I think at the time I was shifting my computer, so I didn't
Yeah.
have the ability to make some others, but this one is probably a better overlay. So here's 495, this is the parcel. This is all, it's wetlands. It's entirely a wet area, and it's also entirely endangered species habitat.
Right.
And so we, in 2013, when we got the offer, when the Paulsons contacted us, said this is the desire of their father, who has passed on, they wanted to
Right.
see if the commission was interested. We said, we'd like to see the property, but it's all wet. It's not gonna be something that we can really get out at the time that they had contacted us. And then with the way the winter was that year, and even the spring and so forth,
Right.
we really didn't get there till this year. So this year, in December, before we had the snow, when the ground was frozen, we contacted the neighbor here and asked for permission to cross over and take a look. So, we walked through, a couple of commission members and myself, and as I said, this is the piece that, I think this was taken by tax title, and so the town owns this piece. And it's got a really lovely pond through it, and there's, you can see sort of the stream flows, through here. This is Colonial Candies, which on the other side is where their building is, and then the town cemetery and the cane piece. We have there's the Cranberry Meadow piece, this piece of conservation land up here. This parcel has a conservation restriction on it, which is fairly extensive. They built a house over in this area, but the rest is under restriction. So it kind of, it looks like a nice corridor to continue the protection of a green belt along the stream system. So we have a policy that we had adopted a number of years ago. I can't tell you which year because I don't have it on here right now, but I know I've sent it and passed to the Selectmen, and it has some process that we would go through. And one of them is that we would have town council assist with doing title search and doing drafting the deed and reviewing things. And when we went to new town council in January, we passed this by them to see if there was any other steps that they would recommend. And the one other step that we didn't have in here, which makes complete sense, at least we didn't have it in the way they recommended, is to also have an environmental review, before you take land or accept a gift. So, and they said, before you do any, take on any work, or before they take on any work, they'd want to have the selectmen's input as well as the commission. So that's really what we're looking to do tonight, is to see whether it makes sense to proceed down the path of doing the title search and doing the environmental review and start preparing documents to accept it as a gift.
Well, you know, I think it makes sense to accept it, but I also think we need a little perspective on how much we need to vet this, this gift, because, I mean, the alternative is to stop paying taxes on it, and it goes into tax title anyway, and so.
Which I believe there's a expense associated with that too.
Yeah, but I mean, it just seems like, I mean, for this, I can see our new town council's point on environmental issues, but I don't know.
We did talk about, you know, there's the DEP database, and we can check with the fire department and the Board of Health, and that's kind of been the policy in the past. We walk the property, we try to determine whether or not there's any, you know, vegetation that's, you know, looking like it's, you know, depressed, or whether there's, you know, vehicles or, you know, things, old farms.
No obvious signs.
There's no obvious sign, but now there is a culvert that comes under 495, you know, so it does, there is drainage that's getting dumped in here from across the way. I think it was more, and I don't have his exact words, but it was more that, you know, whoever does that environmental review is gonna put their stamp on it, you know, and so then you don't have that issue coming back at you, the town. Well, you probably always do, but you'd have somebody else do it back after.
So your point is, how much is it gonna cost us?
right, I mean, just say, to take this gift, we don't want to spend $50,000 to assure
Exactly.
ourselves that this gift
Right.
is clean and,
Right. And not having worked with this council, I don't know who they would do that with. You know, I know that there's, you know, a variety of firms that probably do these things, and some are less expensive than others, so I mean, that's something that we'd have to look at.
what are your thoughts, Don?
I'd like to have another talk with town council, but I think,
I think he's trying to run up your bill.
yeah. And we all know how I hate that. No, I think, I agree. I think if we've done the EPA database search.
I haven't yet, I haven't spent the time on it yet.
Okay.
I'm just saying that was sort of the past.
Right,
Yeah.
but if we follow the past practice, I think our exposure is minimal. I mean, there are no guarantees unless we went through the whole process. And if you felt like we needed somebody to you know, to do testing and put their stamp on something, that can get pretty pricey. So, you know, we could maybe look for a quote, but I think we're pretty safe just following the normal process.
How much is this, other than this parcel, how much of this is, we own this piece?
So, yeah, so we own this piece, which is about 3.7 acres.
So we own the piece that's right next.
Yeah,
Right
so you're
next
right,
to it,
we
yeah.
already bought whatever problem is there, we already own it.
Yeah.
We really have.
With the,
Hello?
very lovely beaver dam activity, you know,
Yes.
and through here.
And of course, if we already have existing issues and somebody confirms that for us,
That's right.
then you're talking
And no
about
good can come
remediation.
from
so,
that,
yeah.
right.
So
Well-
mum's the word.
Yeah, no,
I'm not saying that,
No, we would never say
I'm
that.
just laying out all your.
I know.
no, but it's a great point, Stan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we
Yeah.
already own this, so it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
So, yeah, perhaps you could talk to town council in light of this new information, whether they think maybe this is one we could safely pass on.
I'll be speaking with them, so.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think, yeah, except for that caveat, I think it makes sense to pursue this. Dave?
What is the advantage to us in accepting this gift?
Mostly that it's insured, you know, in perpetuity, because it would be under conservation. It was going to be given to the town for conservation purposes, that
But as a
unless it was
wetland,
taken by eminent domain by the federal government for the
When
pipeline.
they widen the.
You know, or you know, for something else, you know, it would remain for endangered species habitat, for wetlands and water quality, for flood storage, you know, all the things that it's contributing to now, but it would be permanent.
But it's a wetland already, no one can do anything, any of those awful things to it anyways. can they?
Those things happen. People do fill wetlands, people do get exemptions, you know, it could be like 495 widening, or it could be,
Well, if the feds want to widen 495, they're gonna do it. They'll-
Right, but there's greater protection if it's
Whether
already,
we own it or not.
there's greater protection if the town owns it as conservation land than if it's just a wetland.
But I think the point is, at some point, we're gonna own it anyway.
Right.
We're gonna own it anyway, so they're gonna stop paying taxes on it and go to tax title and we'll own it. So it's gonna be ours at some point. It's either sooner or later. So,
No, and I think we ought to credit the,
Yeah.
the landowners, or the family's intent here. So,
So
no, so I think it makes sense to
Yeah.
Okay.
pursue this gift and.
Do you need anything from us other than
Not at this
saying-
point, just wanted to bring it to your
Okay.
attention and
Okay.
just make sure that
Okay.
before we spent either staff time or
Yeah, no,
council
yeah,
time, you know, there's
yeah.
something that
And
was,
we'll lay out a strategy to
Okay.
follow up on this.
Okay,
okay, very good, thank you.
thanks.
The next item on our agenda is a request for A-frame type sign located at Laurel Learning, 26 Forbush Mill Road. Hi.
Audra.
Hey, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Audra.
Audra? Your last name?
Audra Guimon, nice to meet you.
And what is Laurel Learning?
Actually, for the short form is it's a tutoring business. I
Mhm.
lived in Bolton for about 7 years, and I ran it out of my home in Bolton. I moved to Lancaster this past summer, and so I was looking for a place to continue the business in Bolton. I have been going to local libraries and working on my business that way, but I found a nice rental, and it's a great place in terms of proximity for my clients. So this is where I am at 27 Forbush, so I would like to put an A-frame sign out that obviously is temporary, but just to signify that I'm there, hours, et cetera, contact information, that kind of stuff.
Do you have a proposed form of sign?
Well, it's just an A-frame sign, just like what you would see at the church, not like, I didn't get any sign yet because I wanted to kind of find out what I was allowed to do, but I'm thinking more like you see at the church, that's just literally like an A-frame sign that you can just change the letters in it, and it's just going to have the lettering Laurel Learning. It's gonna have contact information in terms of like registering for something or what hours I'm open, that kind of thing, so.
And you're gonna leave it out permanently or
Well,
take it in or out?
yeah,
as
I
a-
mean, it's just like I would have it out as I'm open and
Okay.
then take it in when I'm not. So that was really the intent,
Mhm.
not to have it there like permanently, but just,
And where in Forbush Mill Road?
I'm actually right in the same building as the liquor store. There's
Okay.
2 awnings.
Where the bike shop used to be?
Well, actually,
He
the
was in the
bike shop
basement.
was down in the basement.
Yeah.
So I'm actually the left awning. There's 2 awnings and I'm the
Mhm.
left one. So,
Okay, so you have that big parking lot out there, so I can see an A-frame would work for you.
yes,
and,
exactly.
Yeah.
And, it's a really nice office space in there, so that's where I'm looking.
Yeah, well, no, I think that makes sense. I don't know. I mean, I think you should get sort of a permanent looking painted sign rather than like those
I mean, I think that's
letter-
the intention at some point, but
Yeah.
at this point, I want to just kind of get the news out there that like, this is when I'm open, this is what's going on, and, whether I'm doing, and, or even subjects and what's, what tutors I have available and that kind of thing, so just, so I need something in the meantime, so to speak, before I, go through the process of trying to make something more permanent.
Is the
So-
landlord okay with this?
Oh, yeah. He's fine. He did say to check with the liquor store that's next door, because that would be certainly a consideration if I was doing anything permanent, because they've gone through the process so that they have, their sign is the right colors and
Right.
appropriate.
Yeah, they're actually a little aggressive with their signs. I think after they got some approved, they added some extras,
So,
as I recall.
So
But
I
that's-
think I would have to check with them, I wouldn't be able to just sort of put in a
Yeah.
sign there. So I wanted to start off with, I'll do the A-frame sign and then, so that because even in terms of positioning a permanent sign, I'm not exactly sure where it would go, and with all the snow and everything,
right.
I just thought it makes
Yeah.
sense to just start this way and then just see what would work.
Yeah, no, I just think that, I mean, some of those temporary signs are pretty,
Lame.
I don't know, it's the look you want.
Well, actually, I have I'm working on having a sign on the inside of the building, and there's a nice big window on the inside, and I have actually, my logo is the cardinal, and I have a cardinal light that actually turns on in the evenings, and the sign would be from the inside, and I've asked the inspector, and that was approved to do the inside of the building. So this was really just more.
Well, it sounds like you just wanted to do this to get started and then,
Exactly.
get something.
Yeah.
Exactly, and with the snow and everything, it's kind of like impossible to think of something permanent.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I think, try to help out a business in town.
Yeah, no, I think you sort of think towards the next step rather than the purely temporary mobile letter sign, yeah. But no, I think that's fine. I think that's fine, you're right, that's a convenient location for your clientele.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the A-frame sign located at Laurel Learning, 274 Bish Mill Road.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Great. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank you.
Well,
Good
good
luck.
Thanks a lot.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Tonight's sign night.
Sign night. Next item on our agenda, request for a sign for Clinton Savings Bank at 562 Main Street.
Thank you.
Yep. See you.
Good to see you again.
Hi, Ellen McGovern.
Thank you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Ellen McGovern.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hi, Ellen
Hi,
McGovern.
Linda.
Hi, Linda, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Barely.
Getting there.
Not financially, we have. I'm sure. As you may recall, we were before you last September to try to get us to purchase that property. We've done that, we have all the approvals. And we removed the asbestos last week, and we're at the point where we want to start the demolition of the property and to erect the permanent location, permanent structure, if you will. What we would like to do is we would like to put a temporary sign in front of the construction. I'm not sure if you have it.
Yeah, no, we got copies.
Okay, sorry.
No, not the color one. The
Yeah.
color's nice.
You can have a color one.
Oh, boy. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So while the construction is going on, we'd like to put a sign at the entrance of the property just to indicate that this is the future home of Clinton Savings Bank. It's a two-sided sign. I think it meets the dimensions of the sign requirements of the town. So we'll be there temporarily until the construction is finished and the permanent signs are put up. We expect that to be about a 7 month project possibly. So this might go up on or about April 1st. And then it would come down obviously when the permanent signs.
Yeah, no, I think it looks fine, though it seems 4 by 8 feet seems big, but I think for during construction, I think that's fine. And then it'll also give us a sense of scale when you come back with the sort of final sign.
Exactly.
The,
Yeah, and we tried to incorporate obviously the town's logo with it, because
Yeah.
again, we're a community bank and we're all the community here, so.
and, yeah, no, it's good. It's
nice.
great that, you're moving forward on that. I think everyone's looking forward to that, so.
Everyone has been very helpful in town, without exception. And we hope to have the permit for demolition on Saturday, so hopefully Monday we'll start the process.
As long as they don't get the
Watch
northeast
across
this
the
weekend.
street.
That's right.
Yeah, right? So, we'll see about that, but.
Yeah, so.
And of course, it's not gonna be like dramatic like one of those hotels in Las
No.
Vegas. It comes down.
No,
A little extra.
People pulling it up, you know.
We're not gonna let it go, it's true.
But we're looking forward to it, and, you know, I think it'll be good for us, I hope it will be good for the town
Mhm.
as we move
Okay.
forward. So,
Okay.
All right.
Well, then I will make a motion to approve the temporary sign request for Clinton Savings Bank at 562 Main Street.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Great.
Thank you
Thank you very
Good
much,
luck.
Dylan. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You
Thanks
too.
again.
Thank you.
Take care.
Next item on our agenda is a request to hold a Bear Hill Triathlon on Saturday, June 28th, 2015.
I am Sue Reedy from the Harvard Lions Club. Hi,
Good to see you.
you're back again.
Hi.
Hi.
That's right.
I kind of see
This
you
is
again.
third year?
Third year,
Third
yeah.
year,
Nothing's changed, so it's, well, except for date. So it's Sunday, June 28th, we're starting the same time at 8, so the bikes would be on your roads here on Harvard Road, Green Road, and Bear Hill, that 2-mile stretch, from about 8:15 to 8:45. We would go again with all the signs ahead of time, and give Linda the notice for your town newsletter. We get the insurance, and we don't get that until closer to the event, but that would come to your town also.
And I'm sure Vin's okay with this.
Yeah, I already got his approval.
Okay.
Yeah, nice for you.
Okay.
So we would just get permission to run the bike race on your 2 miles of your
Yeah.
roads.
No, sounds good.
All right, zipping right along, I guess we'll make a motion to approve the Bear Hill Triathlon on Sunday, June 28th, 2015.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks.
Nice.
Do you want
Great.
these or need these?
I'll keep them with the
Yeah,
file.
The archives.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to defending my championship.
Oh. All right, thank you.
In fact, it's a big triathlon.
The next item on our agenda is a request to hold the second annual Pain in the Mass
I
Tour
love that.
on Saturday and Sunday, August 22nd and 23rd, 2015.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? Good day, nice to meet you. Yep.
Stay coming out next week. So, I guess the story. Did you guys move the meeting from?
The other, yeah, well, that's our usual meeting place, and yes, that we did, it's unusual that we're meeting here, but.
Well, I go over there and the parking lot's empty, so I'm searching around and I'm coming out of the parking lot, and someone stops us and he's like, "Are you looking for the meeting?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, it's up there in the church."
We have been known to meet in the church.
So I get in there, I'm sitting down and there's coffee and food and all this stuff, and next thing I know, "Hello all, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. Let's start this meeting off with a prayer." And I'm like, "You come in the wrong spot." Very awkward. So walking out on it.
I'm walking out.
Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for
well,
moving the meeting. I'm sure my friends are gonna get a good laugh out of this one.
Well, thanks for your persistence here.
So
We don't have a sign there that says we're not out on the outside?
No.
It was advertised as
Yeah.
here, so.
yeah, but
If
I
you
just,
read
like I
your
said,
email
it was
carefully,
It,
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know. I was there last year." So, lesson learned.
So we did do this last year, but give us the overview on this riding.
So again, this is a 2-day event. Last year we made some changes. Last year it started off at the International, and we had the 2-day riders continue on to Greenfield. The 1-day riders came back and finished off at the International. What we're doing this year is we're making some changes. We want to start the event at Neshoba Regional, and have all of the 1-day and 2-day riders continue on and finish off in Greenfield, rather than looping back, because last year they felt like they missed out on a lot of the fun activities that kind of ended day one, and we want to make it more of a group event. So we would not be starting, obviously, at the International. We'd be starting at Neshoba, and once we get approval from the town, we'll approach the school board and look for their approval, use that as a starting point. I think the only thing that we would need is probably some kind of security detail, because it will be a mass start.
Mass start, yeah. And you just, what, roll down Forbush Mill then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, I brought these, just they're kind of some close-ups and the overall section of where we start and exit the town. So.
Oh, I see. Oh, you go down Forbush, but then you cut back into town. I see.
Yeah. So.
No, that's it. You're making it hard on folks. So you have to go over the top of Aquatic before.
Yeah.
We didn't
want to,
Okay, that's
we
good.
didn't want to, rip them off. We didn't want to deprive them. So. Last year, I think we, like I said, it was a first year event. We had like 45 riders. This year, the maximum that we're going to be allowed is, for the 2-day event, is 42 riders. For the 1-day Century, we'll have a 1-day Century, and then we're doing a 60-mile option as well. That's going to start in Barry. So just these 2 legs of the ride will start in Bolton.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. Though, the school, they get a lot of stuff. I mean, I would think in the middle of the summer or towards the end of the summer, you should be fine, but yeah, talk to them soon, because.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to get all of our approvals and everything first, and then.
But no, I think it looks fine.
Did you get final approval from the chief? Because I know he was looking at it, but.
I know our event coordinator has been Christine. She's the one that sent you all the emails and the links, and so she'll be talking with all the police chiefs, and she'll also be the contact to reach out to the school districts.
So maybe you can make it contingent on the chief approving it.
Yeah, okay. I'm good. All right, we'll make a motion to approve to hold the 2nd annual Pain in the Mass Tour on Saturday and Sunday, August 22nd and 23rd, 2015, contingent on getting a satisfactory approval from the chief of police, as well as permission from the Neshoba Regional School District to let you stage the event at the high school.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks again your persistence in finding us. All right. The next item on our agenda is the town administrator's report on Minuteman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The ever popular.
Ever popular.
It's apparently so popular, it's going to be spun off into its own meeting.
It worked for Norman Lear, so.
But why don't you explain,
It's going to be a reality TV show on Tobacco.
I think we're heading towards seriality TV, but, so we are moving forward with the building project, and as part of that process, the school is trying to have public meetings in each of the 16-member towns to talk about where the building project is right now, and not to seek approval for the building project because it's still in its infancy stages, sort of its infancy stages, but to try to get people up to speed on where things stand right now, what the options are that are being considered, and to get input from the public on which option they think is best. So that's really the purpose. This is actually a copy of the presentation right here. One of the slides is, obviously, one of the things everybody's very concerned about or interested in is what the projected costs are. So there's actually a slide that's tailored for every community to show, based on the formula that we've developed, what the projected annual cost is for your town. For example, the copy that I have is from the chairman of the building committee, Ford Spalding, who's also the school district representative from Dover. Dover has one of the smallest student populations of all I think they generally have 1 or 2 students. And without getting into all the details, for the current numbers for Dover, for example, the least expensive option would be $26.24 to the annual tax rate, and the most expensive being $31.98. So, and that's over it's over a 30-year level debt service, and I don't have the interest rate here that's projected, but I think it's around 3% projected out, but I'll have that number. So it is not to sell people, it is only to report out where things are, what the district is looking at for options. I will very likely be doing the presentation. David O'Connor, our Minuteman School Committee rep, will be present, as will Superintendent Dr. Ed Poquillan. And we have no idea if we'll have 2 people or 42 people, but each community is just trying to get the message out. As you know, here we talk about this frequently, so the fact that there's a building project out there won't be news to a lot of people, but the details of it may be, because they're still just forthcoming. So I'm excited about getting the word out to more people, and I think that I know the district is very interested in getting feedback. And there'll be index cards passed out, so that people, if they have specific questions that they know they want answered, not only will they be answered that night to the best of everyone's ability, but we'll catalog them and look for common questions across the 16 towns to see, what's generating the most concern, comment, etc. So I hope it goes well. I believe it will.
And when is this again?
Yes, March 25th in this very room at 7 p.m. That's a Wednesday night, March 25th.
All right. Mr. Lindsay?
Could you give me that Dover figure again? I didn't understand it.
I said that, should have closed my
The
copy.
Dover tax, the
example-
taxes per residence in Dover?
Yes.
Residences?
These are not my numbers, so I can't give you any backup behind them.
I didn't understand what it was.
Based on the various projected costs, depending on which option you're talking about, the rates ranged from, or the increases ranged from.
There are increases in the tax rate.
Right.
Increases in taxes.
Increases to the annual tax rate of somewhere between $26 and change and $31 and change, and that's.
That can't be the tax rate.
Not rate, or it's gotta be the average
I'm sorry, the
residential.
tax bill.
Tax
So the
bill.
average house.
I apologize.
Yes, it's not tax rate, it's tax bill.
Okay.
The actual column heading says, I misspoke, the actual comments, projected annual cost to a median homeowner in Dover.
Oh, so that's
Sorry.
what, on a $2 million house?
I couldn't, but no. I didn't even realize that I said tax rate.
And that's, you said $20 to $30?
26.24 is the low, 31.98 the high.
Dover is probably high, both for the reason you cited, that they have an average high value, but also they have to pay as though they had 5 or 6 students, and they have
About
one, I
one or
think.
two, yeah.
One the last time I knew, so.
I think the highest
we
one
might be
too.
less than that,
Mhm.
and you will have that figure.
I will have that figure, yeah.
All right. We're on to Board of Selectmen business, and the first item is a request to overspend snow and ice, line item 423 by $70,000. Now, this request, what came in March, I guess we've had no snow since March 4th.
We've had no, so we were already in deficit of the 150.
Yep.
The last 150. We've had no snow, we've had many days of
No.
melting during the day and then refreezing at night. So we've been sanding
Mm-hmm.
or salting or whatever we're putting down
Yeah.
now pretty much every night.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate, but we don't have much choice. Right?
So we're basically, what, including the 180, so we're over $500,000.
Yeah, well, yes, we've exceeded the 180 that was originally
Yeah.
budgeted, And we've done two $150, $150,000.
Yeah, so 480 and 70 is 550.
Most expensive winter
It has been,
ever,
yes.
yeah.
And last year was right up
Was
there
pretty
with the
high,
moon, when we
yeah.
blew that one away. Well, 370 and 180, yeah, so we're at 550.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
The budget is set up so that it already encompasses 100,000 overspend over the 180.
Mhm.
It's in a different part, so in a sense, it's 450 minus the 180 would be the unanticipated amount, so it's about
370,
230 over the
280, 270, I'm sorry. It'll be about 270.
270 over the anticipated amount.
David's
Which,
correct.
although we put 180 in the budget, we really anticipate 380 when you look at the budget. We put 180 in the line item, but if you look at the budget as a whole, we anticipate 380. So if we're at 550.
I thought, I'm sorry, I thought it was 280 that we anticipated. I thought it was 180 that we budgeted and 100 sort of off balance.
So it's 280 that we
That's 280.
anticipate.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's 550 versus 280.
So the delta's 270.
Yeah.
But we still spent $550,000.
Well, and
doesn't matter where you
the
put it.
100,000 comes out of the tax rate if there isn't another source for
It
it.
has already come out of the tax rate. It's in the tax rate that we're paying right now.
Doesn't really matter where it comes from.
Well, but I'm not sure I agree with that, because last year's, we're paid, our taxes are $100,000, $108,000 higher than they could have been because we couldn't pay off all our snow and ice last year.
But the 250 end of process free cash target is really 350 because we have an extra 100,000 in there for anticipated overreach of the snow and ice.
And what follows from that?
Well, that we aren't going to have to come up with quite as, rather than having to come up with 370,000 extra, we're going to have to come up with 270,000 extra. So it's a slightly less difficult thing to achieve.
See how our friends at the school committee help us out on Monday on that, huh?
Yeah.
So we need a motion?
vote, yes, we do.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve that we overspend the snow and ice account 423 by $70,000.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Speaking of the schools, the next item is a recap of the Tri-Town meeting held on March 4th, 2015. Stan, you want to?
Sure, well, I'll keep it brief. The Tri-Town meeting on the 4th, we had representatives of all three towns, both the Selectmen and Finance Committee, and we had some representation by the school committee. And essentially, it was primarily a discussion of, you know, where the towns were in terms of their budgeting process and what the impact of the proposed school budget for the next fiscal year would have on those towns. And I think, Don, you talked about specifically about Bolton, and the fact that we weren't originally planning going to the levy limit, and now with the budget as it is now, we will have to go to the full levy limit. We will have to spend over $500,000 of free cash just to balance the budget, and may put in jeopardy some capital spending items that we have. I know that Stowe also expressed concern. When do they vote for the election for the $9.5 million?
Well, it's in another week or two. It's not far off.
Right. So the voters in Stowe some time ago had a special town meeting and approved a number of capital projects to the tune of $9.5 million, and they will be going to the polls to authorize the spending for that. You know, they have the highest increase, well over $1 million to their assessment coming up this year. So they're starting to feel the pinch. Plus, they have the new schools that are coming online, and they'll be feeling the full effects of the borrowing against that in the not too distant future. Lancaster is probably the most impacted by the budget, given that they've had issues over the last decade or so, and have tried to dig out of the hole. But you know, the budget as it stands now, the school budget, that would represent in the Lancaster town budget about 69% of their budget would be going to the schools, which is quite frankly an outrageous amount of money in terms of percentage-wise. So, you know, we expressed our concerns. Unfortunately, the school committee really has left it up to the district, that being Mr. Wood and Mr. King, to come back with some proposed cuts. They have come up with some suggestions, but unfortunately the school committee meeting that was scheduled for last night was canceled to next Monday. I guess Mr. King and Mr. Wood are out ill, and I guess the school committee did not want to hold a meeting without them. So the meeting to discuss these proposed budget cuts brought forth by Mr. Wood and Mr. King will occur on Monday the 16th, and then we'll see what happens there. And I guess they might have voted last night. I don't know whether they're going to vote on Monday. And what they vote is really up in the air. And I guess once they vote, then it'll be in the three towns court to debate that, and I guess ultimately decide if that's a number we can live with, or whether the only options that the towns have are either to accept the budget number that we're given in the assessment from the school committee, or we can reject it on town meeting floor, and those are the only two options. If two of the three towns, at least two of the three towns, reject or vote it down, then the school budget is voted down in its entirety, and then the district has, and the school committee has 30 days to come back with another budget, which could be the same budget, or it could be a different budget, of which then we would have to hold a special town meeting to deliberate on that. So,
The Stowe Selectmen suggested that if towns sort of worked together and had town meetings voted on a alternative in rejecting the budget, came up with alternative figures with appropriate percentages, there was at least a possibility that should the school committee go along with that number, that a second round of town meetings could be avoided. I don't know.
Well, the mechanics of that are really tricky.
Yeah, no, he had thrown that out. It was unclear that could really work in practice.
I can't imagine. I'd be hard pressed to see how it would. The school committee would have to have voted in advance to agree to each of the numbers. It couldn't happen spontaneously on town meeting floor, because
Well, no, I thought what he was saying, if, for example, if the towns all got together and said, you know, we're gonna slice $1 million off this budget, and so the Bolton number is down to X. And so then you've got all three towns saying, we will vote our share of our budget. Then if the school committee in a subsequent meeting says, you know what, that sounds like a good number, we'll make that the number of the new budget, then I think what he was claiming was we would not then have to have the second round of town meetings to vote on the new budget if you already had approvals from each town.
Right, that was my point, is that all that would have to happen with the school committee in advance of the town meetings. It couldn't happen at the town meeting, and it couldn't happen subsequent to the town meeting, I don't think. I think because the Board of Selectmen don't have the authority to negotiate a final number, town meeting is the final arbiter. So I believe what would need to happen is the school committee would need to vote, because the budget's the warrants have already been printed with the budgets. So let's say for a round number, the school committee, the existing school committee proposed budget is $50 million and $17 million of it is ours. So in order to be able to change that number at town meeting and have the school committee accept it, I believe what would need to happen is at a school committee meeting prior to the town meeting, they would have to say, all right, Bolton's number, we agree, will go from 17 million to 16 million. And then that amendment could be made at town meeting. And then town meeting has to vote on the number. We couldn't have town meeting reject the budget, have the selectmen of 3 towns get together with the school committee and say, okay, these are the numbers we'll accept in each town, and call it a day. I believe it would have to come back for a town meeting vote.
But I mean, I thought what I heard him say was that if you said, if by an amendment, the town meeting approves a number that is less than what the school committee has asked for, but you have that town meeting vote, we're good for 16.5 million, not 17, but the town of Bolton's okay for 16.5 million. If that had been coordinated among the various towns, so when the numbers all work, the school committee subsequently, having gotten the rejection from 2 out of the 3 towns, if they'd have the option of reducing their budget to the number that the 3 towns had said they could live with.
Subsequent.
I mean, it's.
I understand that that's what he said. I just don't necessarily agree that that's the way it could work.
Yeah, no, it seems.
Because it would have to be worked out with all 3 towns in advance, because we just can't arbitrarily change our number.
But I think if you take the literal interpretation of the law says you vote a number up or down, the school committee goes back and does its work with whomever, and then that number needs to be brought back to town meeting. I'm not so sure it ever anticipated.
No, you may be right. You may be right.
Well, the thing is, the 3 towns could get together and say, okay, we don't like this number. It most likely will be rejected, but here's a number that we all can live with, and that gets figured out, and then that's a number that the school committee has the day after the annual town meeting to work with. You know.
But it did seem as though, I mean, the superintendent does have some significant changes, potential changes in the budget that he's put out there. So I mean, on some level, he was listening to what the 3 towns were saying in Tri-Town.
I think the message has been received.
Yeah.
Well, the message is received. I don't necessarily agree with you that he's reduced it in the areas that not all the members of the school committee would like him to reduce it in.
Oh, yeah.
And some members of the school committee would like him to look at some of the portions of the budget where they could cut that down. And I think, you know, not for this meeting, but perhaps for our next selectmen's meeting, after, assuming that the school committee does something on Monday, I'm sure we'll have more to say on many topics. I know I will. Also, for folks who may not know, we had caucus on March 9th, and at that point in time, there were no uncontested races. But I believe we've gotten word today that there will be a contested race in Bolton for school committee. That is our understanding of it.
There were papers filed today.
There were papers filed today, so that's the extent of what we know. So.
Returning to the Tri-Town and the assessment, I agree with Stan that the very high increase in the assessment makes it more difficult not to raise to the levy limit based on some numbers at Tuesday night's advisory committee meeting. Even if the school assessment stays where it is, I think there is still a chance to raise less than all the way to the levy limit without drastic cuts. But I certainly agree it would be a much easier task if we had a more reasonable school assessment.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I think we'll be doing a lot of modeling after Monday night, presuming the school committee votes the budget Monday night, and we can plug in some hard numbers and do a lot of...
They did a fair amount of modeling Tuesday night, and as I say, I think there's still a chance of being below the levy limit. even if there isn't a reduction in the schools. But I hope there is a reduction in the schools, and
Yeah.
Stan is certainly right that it's much less difficult if we have a more reasonable school.
All right, next item on our agenda is to review minutes. We have any? No. No.
Not.
Let's blame Mr. Sprague for that.
That's
He's not
right.
here, why not?
We did get in our annual report. I don't know if you've circulated that yet.
I did.
No.
Yes,
You see it?
I've
Yes.
taken a look at it. I know in years past, we have included those citizens who have passed in the
Mhm.
past year. I didn't know if you.
Oh, that's a good
you want-
idea.
Okay, I
That's a
can
good
do that.
idea.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's in the hands of our proofreader right now.
But I read it, it looked
Yeah.
good.
All right. Anything else?
Just, I sent the latest version of the warrant to town council, and after I did that, I was...
You found something?
I didn't find something, no, but we got a late request in from the school district for proposing $80,000 to resurface what they're referring to as Mechanic Street. And I have not followed up with Mr. Cleary on this yet, but I shall, because first of all, if we've resurfaced what is literally Mechanic Street, that's Chapter 90 money. That's not something that we would do under a borrowing, not a borrowing, but an appropriation at town meeting. And the rest of it is basically a right-of-way from that speed bump at the end of Mechanic Street onto Florence Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Clary and our DPW director don't necessarily agree on the means and methods to approach it, and don't agree on the projected cost. The DPW director feels it could be done for significantly less money than the figure that I got today. So I have not plugged that in to the warrant yet. I realize I don't have veto power over it, but I am trying to get it sanitized so an article can be written that reflect the correct means and methods and bring forward a dollar amount that I think is more realistic.
But if it's Chapter 90 money, then.
It's only Chapter 90 money as far as the end of, when we get to that speed bump on Mechanic, that's where Chapter 90 ends.
Oh, okay.
The rest of it is not Mechanic.
So the dollar amount is from the speed bump inward?
Correct. And there really isn't a dispute that some work needs to be done. It's just a matter of how we achieve it.
Right, okay.
I saw a headline that suggested the governor was going to try to increase Chapter 90 money.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
I haven't, I know he released the other $100,000 that the previous governor had held in advance, but I did not know
No,
that.
it was.
He was gonna release
bond.
another 200 grand to make it a total.
200 million.
200 million, sorry.
Yeah.
For this fiscal year or next fiscal
I
year?
think this fiscal year.
That's an interesting thing to do with a $1 billion budget
Well,
deficit, but
this is why we like having a former
Yeah.
selectman in the state house.
it is nice to have someone there who has municipal experience.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Anything else?
no.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.